Welcome to the ROI Blueprint, Mexico edition, brought to you by Codec Capital. In this series, we explore the boldest minds, most disruptive ideas, and innovative strategies shaping the future of business and lifestyle here in Mexico. Diego successfully developed, constructed, and sold a range of real estate projects across Mexico and the United States, demonstrating a strong entrepreneurial vision and strategic execution. A visionary thought leader in the practical integration of technology and AI within the real estate sector. So I'm so glad to have you here with us today, Diego, and I'm so excited to talk to you about how you've influenced the market, how you've brought yourself to this journey here, and also just overall some advice that you have for the local Mexican market and internationally speaking, what your story is. So thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And I basically just kind of want to find out from you, what led you to initially decide to work in the Riviera Maya area?
Well, initially I got into real estate out of high school and into college. I started working at my family's construction firm that built hotels in main hotspots in Mexico. After that, during college, I kind of became interested in how projects got integrated from a development standpoint before construction. Therefore, I started looking at what markets were in Mexico and found Riviera Maya to be one of the most impressive and booming markets in Mexico.
Wonderful. And when you say hotspots, like how was that transition from when you first started kind of working with your family business to now? Did you see some of those markets evolve over time and kind of hit like their maturity? And what lessons did you learn from kind of having that experience in those kind of growth markets at that time?
I think every market, it's very specific, let's say, tellers of they're going to become a booming market. And you can see it in the increase in price per square meter or per square foot of land. After that, you can start looking at a government's investment in infrastructure, for example. That's what ultimately led me in this endeavor in Riviera Maya, because I saw that the government was investing in real estate on a federal level, a state level, and more recently on a local level. So that is a pretty important tell in terms of where a market's going to be booming.
Wow, that's great insight. And what about some other like key insights like the growth rate? Did you see any kind of trends, especially in Riviera Maya, that caught your attention?
Yes, I think Riviera Maya is a prime example with the airports, especially with Cancun's airport in the past 20 years. The amount of people that have come each year and have increased over time, an incredible way of really supporting an investment thesis in the real estate world. The more people that come to visit a location, a hotspot, the more probability your projects will succeed.
Agreed. And I think I saw an amazing fact the other day about the growth rate going up to like 400% in the next 2 decades. And so do you feel as if Tulum is like probably the hottest, if not one of the hottest, like local markets for investors in the Riviera Maya specifically area?
Yeah, I believe so, and it has, as I said before, it has a lot to do with government investment, but it also has a lot to do with how a market matures. Tulum is moving away from being a town that was most known for partying and very small hotels and some relatively inexpensive condos to a luxury destination. And the faster that it can grow to that luxury segment, the better returns that all of these investments will have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Tulum is kind of novel in the sense that it also does something that's really hard to find these days, and that's the government implementing strict policies on its integration into nature and sustainability. How is that playing into the idea of, I think, maybe people that are more cognizant of that and investors that are looking for something that might be in the sustainable market? Do you feel like there's any connections there?
Yes, the federal government, specifically in Mexico, is very keen on maintaining certain levels of taking care of the environment. And Semarnat, which is a local government, a local state and government and federal government institution, helps take care of that. And I believe that Tulum is being, changing from what it used to be, of inexperienced developers. It's changing to a new wave of experienced developers that are identifying the market as a great place to invest with eco in mind, but also a luxury mindset.
Absolutely. And what would you say would be kind of one of the surprising finds, like that maybe you've had before investing in other areas that you were pleasantly surprised with investing here in Tulum? Was there anything that kind of was like a breath of fresh air, or something that you were surprised to find how maybe things were easier, or maybe the ROI was even higher than expected? Anything that was like through experience that you kind of were able to uncover?
I think, I found that Tulum has a very important mix of the beach, which is an incredible location. It's an incredible beach in Riviera Maya, but also with a lot of additional, let's say, resources that are mostly inland, like cenotes, for example. These, freshwater underwater pools that you can swim in, and that are all across the peninsula. These two are incredible areas that, can boost development, because they're very unique to this area.
Absolutely.
It's not something that you can find anywhere else in Mexico or in the world.
Agreed. I love the fact that we have it, all around us. And who knows, an investor might buy a piece of land and end up seeing a cenote in their property underneath, and voila, now they have a cenote, right? Now, Diego, you've worked on all different types of projects, from branded residents to boutique hotels and resorts. You have an amazing repertoire of success that you have experience with in your line of profession of investing. And how would you say all of these kind of business models differ from each other? And what have you kind of learned from that?
Well, I think that in the past 20 years, things things have evolved a lot in terms of your resorts and your hotels. They were the run of the mill, typical hotels with the known brands that you had, and the residences did not have any, let's say, additional branding to them.
Mhm.
Now I'm seeing that Tulum is moving more towards the branded real estate segment, which in the world is becoming more and more important. Now I do think that they differ mainly because this branded segment is something that is helping non-branded real estate, like residences, become relevant in a world where hotels and resorts had their identity,
Yeah.
and residences didn't have it. They were just an address with a number. And
Mhm.
now you have these brands that are coming in to them, and it's changing the landscape for them.
Yeah, I like to think of it as like celebrities versus influencers. So influencers are what you create for yourself, and celebritism is something, it's like kind of like, you already have a name for yourself and you kind of fall under that umbrella, or maybe there's, this kind of this almost like winning attribute already associated to the name, right? So it carries you everywhere. But when you can build your own brand, maybe you start off, smaller as a boutique, but because you do tremendous branding, I mean, look at what Azulik has created, for example, in Tulum. It's become a renowned symbol all over the world for its luxury. And this is a project that has been replicated all over. And so I think you're right in terms of like being able to really showcase properties, their uniqueness, and creating a brand for itself without having to be a commercialized staple name like Marriott or something like that. A lot of these brands are creating their own space for themselves. And what would you say in terms of, you know, any advice that you would have, or any of your biggest kind of, um, I would say, tips for success in these markets?
Well, I would say, specifically talking about Riviera Maya and maybe Mexico in general, it's a couple of things. One is, the first rule of real estate is always going to be location, but more and more so, it's changing, and it's evolving to having a project, a development that has great amenities, that
Hmm.
are a complete value proposition to whoever is investing or buying them. The second would be design. I would say, back in the day, design across developments and residential complexes in the world was not something that was very interesting for a buyer. However, now buyers are much more discerning. So I think that would be a second advice. And the third, I think, would be, in the end, having a real estate project in these areas requires having an expert team behind it, and someone that has experience in the area, and someone that has the curriculum to match it.
Yeah. Would you say you know of a particular project you worked on historically where the great design, the great team kind of helped add tremendous value or success behind it?
Yeah, I think I would say the high end of hotels and branded residential projects in Mexico. I've worked on some of them, and having that care for design, for amenities, and having a brand that represents them has become truly a staple of success for them. And that talks a lot about how the branded real estate world is evolving. And I would give you additional in Mexico. I would say Montage Los Cabos was an incredible project that we were able to be a part of. But also, going around the world, you can see Miami, great success with branded real estate, as well as the south of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. And while still kind of maintaining like the actual traditional style of its location, just being able to make it better, of course. And I think that overall in Tulum we see a lot of that adoption and kind of sticking to the traditional Tulum concept of the eco-friendly system, design and whatnot, which really in itself has that luxury feel anyway.
Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome, Diego. So tell me, like, in terms of like common, things that maybe developers or investors forget about or miss that make a huge difference in terms of the returns, what would you kind of suggest or say that you've learned in your experience that make a difference?
I would say it's four things. Number one is location, as I said before. I think it's very important. The hotter you are, the closer you are to the hotter parts of a location, the better your project's going to do. However, it's not only that. You need to add killer amenities that have really really good thought process behind them on who you're going to sell the development to. And this leads me to the third point, which is studying your micro market. A lot of developers go into a market thinking selling to residential, and residential has a lot of sub markets and a lot of very specific sub markets. So you need to create an avatar, need to know exactly who you're going to sell to, and need to really put the amenities and the design process towards those people. And the last one would be, you need to think that you're going to develop for the future. If you start a development now, you're gonna start selling in 2027, 2028, and that is something that a lot of developers forget about. That is, you're not developing and selling for now. You're selling for 3 years, 4 years. So what's going to happen in the market in those 4 years? You need to be able to forecast that.
Absolutely. And actually, that's a perfect segue. What do you see happening in the market that will be changing that they should keep into consideration in the next, 2 to 3 years? I mean, obviously, from a technology standpoint, we know how that will change in the world with AI and everything. How do you think that will influence actual lifestyle and residential and living?
I think the brands will take over real estate. I think
Mhm.
that's happening already, and it will continue to happen. We've seen it all around the world. I think the main destination for that is the Middle East, but right now you're also seeing it in Miami and also in Mexico, and Tulum as well. You're going to start seeing a lot of these famous brands, and not only operators, hotel operators like the ones you said, Marriott, Four Seasons, all of those guys are already here, but
Mhm.
more the brands that are in fashion, that are more relatable to a different segment of the luxury market, of people interested in those brands, that will find real estate relatable to them when they find those brands. So I see the Tulum market going that way, and it's gonna accelerate in the next 12 to 18 months.
Wow, that's incredible insight. And while we're on the topic, you mentioned something about knowing your ICP, especially in the micro market, knowing who your ideal client is for when you're building, when you're developing, and really understanding them intimately, being micro niche and what you're doing, and kind of going through that avatar you mentioned. How do you see technology playing a part in that kind of endeavor? I know you mentioned you've worked previously in AI. There's some experience there. Do you see AI having any type of like influence on finding those perfect personas or creating and adapting these kind of buyer behavior models to understand the market better?
Yes, I think AI is gonna completely transform this industry as well, specifically on market data and on sales data. And I think AI will be able to forecast what segments of the population will be interested in real estate, and more importantly, so well, which of these will be interested, for the first time, which is something that
Mhm.
is always when you're doing a development, you don't want your repeat customers only, but you want a lot of new customers that
Right.
are coming in and buying the real estate. And I think that the brands and the familiarity of these brands with certain people is gonna come through an analysis from AI. AI will help change that and accelerate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what do you think about the trends for investors to even use technology and AI in a more, I guess, with more dependency to find the best deals on the market? So, say for example, I'm an investor and I want to find, the best property in Tulum. Maybe I want to have an AI agent go out and talk to all the developers and all the brokers and, hey, this is exactly how much I want to spend. This is when I want my ROI. Find me the best 5 deals in the market. Do you see yourself using that? Have you used any tools like that? And do you see something like that being the future of investing?
I think it's the future of investing. I'm not sure that we're completely there yet.
Mhm.
We will be there soon. However, right now we use AI a lot for validation. So we create our models, our performance, our investment thesis of where projects should be located, and we run them by AI just to confirm. But the Mexican market, the real estate development market in Mexico is very niche, and it's very how can I say this in a more direct way? It's a market that is still very piece of paper.
Yeah,
There's still a lot of things that are not. We don't have an MLS, let's
yeah,
say, and this is gonna it'll keep moving towards technology, but right now there's still a lot of relationship based opportunities that will be found outside of AI.
yeah, for sure. And maybe even, as those facts come in faster and people are saving more time, it'll allow them for those in-person opportunities to be more valuable and to spend more time doing those in-person kind of meetings and procuring business. As far as the actual preferences that you think most people have in the market, would you say people are more focused on building or the actual location itself? Like, where do you kind of see people usually preferring to go?
I would say it's the location. I mean,
Okay.
it's that is a replaceable. I mean, you can build. There are certain areas in Riviera Maya where you have people building, but that are far from the location hotspots, and it's a tough sell.
Yeah.
And the reality is that people want to be, when they're sharing through social or when they're talking to their friends, they want to show where they're staying, what they're going, where they're investing, where they're going, and they need to be close to the hotspots.
Yeah, I agree. You never want to be hit with the dead zone in Tulum and realize what you got into after the fact, and know that you have to wait. And that's a great segue because people oftentimes have stigmas about investing in Tulum. What would you say are probably like the top stigmas that are just simply not true about investing in Tulum, like myths that you can bust about investing in Tulum?
I would say, the first myth that everyone has is it's just a very unsafe place to invest. There's not legality. Um, it's happened before, like in all markets around the world. There's always things that can validate a rule. However, it's not the case in the majority of the developers. The majority of developments have continued to come to market, have continued to build out and deliver. Some delayed, some not, but it's turned out to be a myth, and not something that is completely true. And in addition to that, I would say, and this is more than or a myth or a bust, but Tulum, when it started with not so much infrastructure, local infrastructure, and that's been a challenge. But the local government is investing tremendously in the past 18 months on that, and it's changing. So it's something that it could have been true before, but in the very near future, it won't be anymore. That's another thing that I would add. And finally, I would say Tulum is a market that still has a lot of runway in terms of, especially in terms of the luxury market. And I would say that music festivals, the interest of people to come to the whole holistic wellness area, all of that there's still a lot of runway for that, and I think it's still a really good time to invest in Tulum.
I think we can take signs like all the music festivals coming here, big brands like Barney's. I heard Nikki Beaches is going to open a location. I don't know if that's a myth or not. But then I saw just recently where maybe this is more of a social indicator, but Netflix just invested over $1 billion in film production in Mexico. Now, while that wasn't specifically Tulum, to me, that tells me that big industry leaders, brands, like you said before, and even the entertainment industry is kind of thinking of Mexico as the next gold mine. And with the fact that there's a 400% increase here in Tulum specifically, like you said, we're at the infant stage of growing. I mean, we really are at like about 50,000 roughly, here in Tulum, and we have probably 10x that in space that we can keep growing. And so I think we're going to see more of that kind of family structure. Like you said, we're not the typical, like people think, a party location. There's a whole nother side of Tulum, which is very community based, and that's very family based. I see playgrounds all over the place in Tulum now that I am more local here. I live locally in Tulum, and so I see how it's been kind of growing into more of a family dynamic, and that age where people are either thinking about a family or planning for it. So I think Tulum is a great option for people thinking to invest here, because they can really grow with the market and see so much of that return, especially if they're thinking about not just investing, but also living here in the future. What would you say to someone who is actively thinking about investing in Tulum, whether that be as an investor or into buying in Tulum space, into the Tulum real estate market? What would you suggest to them in terms of any advice?
I would suggest, first and foremost, understanding who you are investing with, understanding the developer's track record, and more importantly, their experience in that specific market. I think it's very important to do that due diligence of who you're investing with. And in addition to that, I would say just look at the different markets that are coming in. To add to your point on what we discussed earlier, you're having other names that are popping up, like Faena, Soho House, M Gallery, which is another part of the Accor Hotels group. And they'll keep popping up because it's where the market's going. So if you're interested in investing in this area, you need to check who you're doing it with, where you're doing it, and how you're doing it. And that would be my three main recommendations.
And would you say that people should think more about branded residential or hospitality projects in the area? Like, which would you say they should think about considering?
I think they should consider both. It's a mix. Hotels that have already very known operators or well-known brands in place, and also the single branded residential projects that are popping up. Both of them are going to be especially in that luxury sector, hospitality. You're above a $500 ADR, and in residential above that 1 million target. I think you're gonna start finding a lot of these projects, and that should be the focus on luxury.
Great. And what would you say, like as a developer here in Mexico, what challenges do you think they typically face the most? And how do you see those kind of solutions being solved? And especially in your experience, what have you done to kind of solve some of those typical issues?
The main issues that you have in Mexico are the legality of the land that you purchase. I think that would be the first one. You need to be very careful of who you're purchasing the land from. It needs to be titled. It needs to have all the proper due diligence done on it. So you're buying something that's real, and that you're investing in something that's real. The second hurdle, I would say, is the permitting process, specifically when you're getting close to the beachfront. You have a lot of this government agencies that are reviewing the ecological impact on these investments, and those can take quite a bit of time to come out positive, even if the project is properly designed and funded. So you just need to plan accordingly. On the development side, you need to be very careful and cautious on the timelines that you agree on, and have the best consultants that you can have on your team that have connections with the government on a local, federal, and state level, and also on these environmental agencies.
Yeah, wow, that's great advice. I love it. And as far as things that you can say have evolved in the sense of working more streamlined, have you seen there be an improvement with some like that kind of classical Mexico paper filing systems? Have you seen the systems actually evolve over the last maybe decade of investing here? Have you seen improvements in that at all?
Yeah, it varies a lot by state. I would say that Riviera Maya and Cancun and Tulum and Playa del Carmen, they've moved forward a lot. It still obviously could be a bit better in terms of moving faster through the permitting processes, especially in that environmental area. But aside from that, I would say it's definitely become a faster approval process.
Amazing. That's great to hear. And I have seen some changes, both physically and non-physically, especially when it comes to the road infrastructure here in Tulum. It seems like a lot more intention has been made to make the road system better, transportation better. Just overall, I've seen more systems being built out, and more of a connection between, the local people here and overall the businesses. So yeah, I think that's what I've seen as well. Would you say overall, if somebody is thinking about investing in the local Mexico market, they should think about, you know, planning for the next 2 years or the next 10 years? And how does that really vary in terms of time in the market? Is it safe for them to do it now, or should they hold off and wait until things are more built out?
No, I think it all depends on the type of project. But I would advise anyone to invest now. The Tulum, for example, the Tulum condo market as it is right now, it has become a bit stagnant. However, in the next 24 months, it'll just keep moving, and the population keeps growing, and the amount of footfall that you have from visitors with Tulum Airport and with Cancun Airport and with the train, it'll just keep increasing. So the best moment to invest in real estate is always now. And I would recommend anyone, if you're investing in hotels, that's obviously a longer play, and you need to think about the next 7 to 10 years. If you're investing in residential projects, you're investing in the next 3 to 4 years, which again will definitely change in the next 3 or 4 years. And the best moment to invest is now.
Diego, you have so much experience. It's almost like you could probably look at a deal and know if it's a winning opportunity or not, just because of your experience. What are the top 3 things that you say, this is exactly what I look for in a great deal? These are winning. It's a winning formula, and this is exactly what I use to land a great deal. Top 3 things that you kind of are yes.
The top 3 would be decent numbers, not the best. If numbers are overinflated, it's probably not real. So decent return on investment numbers and multiple numbers. Great design. I think design is super important, and it needs to be at the level of not only Mexico but the world. And the third one would be invest in the developer, invest in who's leading the team. And I think that would be the most important one. If you invest in the person, and you invest in their experience and what the value they can add to the development, that is a winning combination, and more than the 3 of them combined.
Amazing. I think you just gave our viewers a powerful insight and recipe for how to really vet their deals. And I want to just thank you for all of this information you gave all the viewers here today. Is there anything else you want to add about your experience, any projects that you want to note, or any last feedback and advice for the viewers here that are thinking about investing in the local Tulum market?
No, I would close it thanking you for the time, and I would just say if you're interested in investing in the Tulum market, invest with your eyes open, and also invest in the people, invest in this place, and also invest in these projects that are going to move Tulum forward.
Wow, that's really great. And I can't agree with you more. I'm so excited to invest locally. Hopefully, I can talk to you more about getting some great insider tips on where to go and what to do. So, thank you so much, Diego Madrid. You've been amazing today. Thank you so much for tuning in to the ROI Blueprint Mexico edition by Codec Capital. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and tell us who you want to hear from next. More visionary voices from Mexico coming soon on ROI Blueprint. Cheers.